This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
The House of Assembly postponing the vote on amendments to the Constitution as Leader of Government Business in the House of Assembly, Dr. Bernard Nottage, explained that the Bahamas Christian Council scheduled a community forum on the issue for tonight and want those findings to be considered before voting.
Now, a date hasn't been set for the vote to take place because it's anticipated that there may be more amendments to the bills.
Financial Services Minister Ryan Pinder led off debate on a compendium of bills called Investment Compendium. The bills, which will be specific to the offshore financial sector, will open the door for new product offerings in the industry. These bills seek to promote alternative legal structure to investment funds. Minister Pinder says the move will ensure the Bahamas remains competitive. Now, despite opposition exception, the Investment Compendium or ICON bills were passed in the House of Assembly during the afternoon proceedings of the House of Assembly.
The Ministry of Financial Services recognized that securing the future of the financial services industry in the Bahamas meant expanding our product and our service offerings. Mr. Speaker, the story of the ICON is one which also reflects the commitment of the Ministry of Financial Services to remain engaged in the international financial services community.
And he has shown once again with coming with this legislation that he is no token, Mr. Speaker, that he is prepared to work hard to grasp and confront the challenges that face our industry, those of competitiveness and making sure that we have new products to keep us on the cutting edge. And I second this bill.
Now, it may well be a very inventive form of bill, may well be the standard bearer for the future. But they're really not giving this side the opportunity of being able to look at it and endeavor to make any meaningful comment with regard to this bill.
Prime Minister Perry Christie was not in Parliament last week when the vote was taken on the VAT bill. He had left the country for investment talks, and as Clint Watson tells us tonight, the move hasn't gone without some criticism, but the Prime Minister is fighting back.
As Prime Minister of the country, I have to make a judgment as to whether or not my presence is sufficiently important to remain.
And in the end, the decision was not to stay and vote, but instead to meet with major investors in Nevada.
I knew that we had the majority to pass the VAT bill. I knew I had personally led the preparation of the country for the VAT legislation. I knew I had met with the private sector in the Bahamas with respect to that. I know that we have to do more to prepare the government before the January introduction. I'm in the process now of solidifying and improving the team and the capacity to deal with the legislation. And so my colleagues knew that I wouldn't be there for the vote. I made a contribution and I left.
Prime Minister Christie says as the lead person on investments, it was important to make these meetings, one of which included the new hotel owners of one of the Bahama properties, SLS.
They were opening a new property in Las Vegas. I wanted to be present to see it, to encourage them, because they're coming in at the last moment to take over a property that Mondarian had had for years that was being constructed. And I wanted to be there. I wanted to meet with the companies that will be now involved in the new gaming regime that will give integrity to the gaming with the minister responsible for gaming, Mr. Wilscombe, and we did that.
Mr. Christie also met with Rick Fox and NBA promoters. He says whatever negative stigma is being attached to his absence is, in his words, rubbish, as the focus should be now on implementing VAT.
The fact of the matter is VAT will become the law of the Bahamas. It will come into effect in January. It is not going to have the negative impact that they say it's going to have. I'm going to make sure of that. When it comes to the protection of the poor, we are going to have new levels of policing in terms of pricing and prices to protect the poor. We're going to be very specific in terms of what we put in place.
Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
This is your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly. Dairy Queen officials say 2014's financial gains are good. CEO of DQ, Derek Osborne, says business has been good so far in 2014. It's a trend he hopes will translate into good profits next year.
It's summertime, and Bahamians, it's hot, like ice cream, and so summer has been good. Miracle Treat Day was a good turnout, and so for the year so far, pretty well. We're looking forward to a good second half of the year, and hopefully we can build on that into next year.
In other business news, the Grand Bahama tourism industry recording increased hotel occupancy levels. That from data released by the Department of Statistics. Between January and July of this year, Grand Bahama has had an occupancy level of 56.23%, which reflects a growth rate of 6.71% over the 49.52% recorded during the same period last year. Room revenue also grew over the 6-month period. And in international news, Burger King has said it is in takeover talks with Tim Hortons. That business move with the Canadian chain would create the world's third largest fast food combination, one with a stock market value of approximately $18 billion. Burger King's shares were up by 15% and those in Tim Hortons by 19% today. The firms have said that any new group would have its headquarters in Canada, where corporate taxes are lower. This has been your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly.